This panel is actually called Transforming the Energy Sector. However, we use another term within the sector, which is energy transition, which is pretty much in line and by far also entails to the core its transformation here in Kosovo. To foster that, we have approved an energy strategy in the government, and it has been approved in the parliament last year, which the main vision behind it and the main values behind it are not just the energy transition, but a just energy transition as well. We have set several targets which relate to decarbonization of the sector, and include 32% of decrease in greenhouse gas emissions, 35% of the electricity consumption to come by renewable energy sources, the introduction of an additional 1,400 megawatt of renewable energy sources, a combination of wind and solar, 600 megawatt each, and then 100 megawatt to come by prosumers. And we have set ourselves a target also to limit the consumption by 1,800 kiloton oil equivalent by 2031 on the name of energy efficiency. Of course, all these targets will not be possible and cannot be achieved without the involvement of the private sector. They cannot be achieved without their investments, they cannot be achieved without the expertise that the private sector brings, both the local one and international one, and they cannot be achieved without the drive that actually the private sector has to keep up with the technological advancements, but also the running clock that we all have to achieve these targets by 2031, and on the name of the climate change. To be able to achieve these targets that we have set ourselves, we have chosen sort of a demand and supply balanced approach. And I'll go through some measures that we have taken as a government to basically outline the path that we have forward towards these targets. Just this year, on the 4th of March, we have inaugurated the day-ahead market, IPEX, which is coupled with Albania, and it has been so far a great example. Actually, it has shown to be a very liquid market for what the situation is in Kosovo and Albania, and we are also looking forward to extend our cooperation with Macedonia and Greece to further expand the integration, and there is already a memorandum of understanding signed with both countries in that regard. This not only allows room for the current market players for trade, but also has been a continuous requirement by international investors in the sector, as well as something that they look up forward to given their investments in the country. We have outlined what we call a renewable energy sector investment pipeline, which is a pipeline of 950 megawatt. It includes auction projects and EPC, and we foresee there a mix of solar and wind capacities that will be launched by 2025, but also very important storage battery contract through the compact program of the MCC that we have also launched, is entering into force this year in Kosovo.
To the moderator of the panel, indeed, the Energy Community Secretariat, and I think it's important to make kind of a step back and a little bit just explain what our institution does, so that kind of gives a background of my interventions afterwards. So Energy Community Secretariat is a treaty-based institution that has been established since 2005, and it integrates the non-EU countries of Western Balkans Ukraine, Moldova, and Georgia in one treaty with the EU countries, so with the European Union in this case. And the objective is to align the legislation in these countries with the legislation in the EU. And we're talking about the legislation in the energy, environment, and as in other sectors, now the climate has a big entry door into the energy sector, so more or less both sectors are kind of coupled. So now we deal also with this climate part as well. We're based in Vienna since 2005, and so what we do is we facilitate the transposition of these legal provisions into the contracting parties. This is how the members are called. In this case, Kosovo is a contracting parties. And we facilitate the integration of these provisions into the national laws. We monitor the implementation, and we do have some report on the level of implementation, and we do have some enforcement powers as well, because these are legally binding requirements for the contracting parties. So in this case, with regards to the Green Deal and the entire sustainability agenda, we had already in the past in the treaty certain aspects that were covered and requirements that these countries have. In particular, these were on the environmental aspects, and in this case we kind of make this separation. Environment, we understand aspects that have impact on the local communities, such as pollution by our power plants, for example, emission of what are considered for example, sulfur that has impact on the population that lives around the polluted area, dust, and so on. And there are certain environmental norms and directives that apply to Kosovo. And then we have these aspects of climate. And here on the climate, we talk mainly about greenhouse gases. So it's about gases that have global impact. So whether these gases are emitted in Kosovo or in China or maybe in an EU country, they will have the same impact on the environment. In terms of the Green Deal, the political commitment of the Balkan countries were made through the declaration, the so-called Sofia Declaration in 2020, November 2020. However, they are being now transposed gradually in the legal obligations through our institutions. So, I mean, there is a ministerial council that decides on each provision and each regulation that should apply in these countries.
Thank you, Astrid. Yeah, sorry, I'm gonna keep going in English to be understood. You know, ACO is not a young company anymore. You hear me well? It's not a young company anymore. We have been existing for 20 years now. We have been active in the region since 2015, here in Kosovo, but in the whole region, North Macedonia, Croatia, Montenegro, and so on. And to be honest, 20 years ago, back at the time, I really think that our job was very complicated. Why? Because we simply had to convince everyone that producing energy from sun, from wind, from storage, it was not a wishful thinking, or it was not a crazy idea, but it was the future. And the good news is that today, we really think that everybody understood that, and especially here in Kosovo. They finally understood that wind and sun actually don't send the bill, and that we can produce cheap electricity thanks to wind and sun. And just to give you an example that is a bit far away from here in Kosovo, but interesting to have in mind, it's part of ACO actuality. We will be inaugurating in September 180 megawatt solar park in Portugal. And it was awarded back in 2019 as the cheapest electricity worldwide, any technology regarding. So it's interesting to have this in mind and to see that it's actually the cheapest, not only the safest for the planet, not only the safest for the energy autonomy and so on, but also the cheapest. And so, yeah, just to come back on your question, which was to understand what convinced us to come to Kosovo, I think there is today one thing that is crucial for a business, international business like us, but it was mentioned many times before, it's the clarity and the visibility of the framework. Because this is what business are waiting for to step up and to accompany the governments in this energy transition. And in that sense, you were talking about it, Kosovo really stood out recently. And I remember the first time we met with your minister in Paris last November, you gave me a small brochure with a 2-year plan of tenders, the amount of investments, the technology expecting. You were mentioning all these plans. You put that in a small brochure, and I had my plan in Kosovo for the next 2 years. It was as easy as that. So it can seem simple, but it's exactly what businesses are waiting for, and it's amazing what Kosovo did. And the proof is there. I mean, the solar auction took place, there was competition, maybe not everyone was expecting that much competition, and it's a really good news for Kosovo. And we are really happy, we were here from the beginning, and we were in the auction, but it's good that we have competitors, because it's good for Kosovo and it's good for the local population. And I also think that this was possible because of political courage, but this was also made possible because a few years back, another strategic decision was taken by the government, which was the decision and the ability of becoming the first country in the region to get the support of the energy community and to launch the process of the strategic investment. I really think that this process of strategic investment is a great Kickstarter for the energy transition.